Well, good morning, everyone. We were just giving it a couple extra minutes because the general session was just in the process of letting up. So quite possibly we'll have a few more people join us as we progress this morning. But given that lots of people are trying to catch flights this morning, let's get rolling here. My name is Madeleine Baerg. I'm the Director of Content with SeedWorld Group. And I am delighted to be here for the third in our World Innovate Series of panel discussions. We had two great panels yesterday afternoon. We had one at noon on innovation, and we had one at 2 in the afternoon on influence or advocacy, or perhaps a better way of framing it is saying, how can we best tell the seed industry story? So I would encourage you to check them out. We're going to have them on SeedWorld Group's or SeedWorld US's website, and we'll have them coming out via social media and print versions in our print publications as well. So if you didn't have a chance to be here in person, they're certainly still available to you. This morning's panel, we are talking about the next generation. We're talking about recruitment and recruiting and retaining and encouraging the best of the new generation coming into ag. I'm delighted to have with me Brittany Lloyd and Jacob Prather. Thank you both for making time for us this morning. This is excellent. So in terms of the thinking behind this panel, when we were brainstorming behind the panels that we wanted to present, we wanted to touch on subjects that are relevant and timely and important regardless of where you are in the seed value chain. And innovation obviously is critical. Influence, advocacy, telling the story is critical. But a third component that every single business, regardless of where you fall in the value chain, is the people. We talk about tech being a huge part of the seed industry and innovation, obviously everything related around seed, but really the single factor that will carry this industry forward is the people that we're able to draw in. So how do we as a whole industry, how do we as individual parts in the value chain draw in the bodies, the best bodies that we need? So that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. And of course, I think a huge challenge is that no matter what we do, we have to be very aware that there are every other industry out there competing with us for the very same bodies. So, and agriculture does have certain challenges to drawing people. There's a huge learning curve if you don't come from an agricultural background. And there is a understanding in agriculture or in the wider community that you either have to be a farmer or have a PhD to be in the ag industry. So we're going to be chatting this morning about how we can overcome some of those challenges and in order to find the best people, draw them to the seed industry, and really provide an environment that allows them to excel. So let me introduce our panelists. I'm going to have to look at my notes here to make sure that I get everything right. Brittany Lloyd is the global head of seed quality at BASF. She works across the seed value chain, or across the seed supply for all crops and in all regions to make sure that customers receive high quality seed. She has a Bachelor of Science in Plant Science from North Carolina State. And she started her career in GMO research, leading multiple research facilities and programs. While leading these teams, she also completed a Master of Science in Agronomy at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and an MBA at North Carolina State. So before I introduce Jacob, let me just throw the first question to you, Brittany. What drew you to the seed industry?
Yeah, so I'm actually your typical farm kid, right? So I grew up on a farm, always wanted to work in agriculture. I was in organizations like FFA, and it was just, I wanted to be able to give back and be a part of agriculture no matter where my career took me. And it's interesting that you say, we have this kind of stigma that you have to be that typical farm kid to be in agriculture. And what I've realized is I need to spread that message that although I am one of those people, we really need to tell people it doesn't matter where you're from, what your degree's in, what you want to do, you can be a part of agriculture. And I think that's what continues to drive me to be a part of agriculture, and why I actually have changed from being in research and being in crops to being on the business side to help spread that message a bit more.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Can I get you just to pull just a smidge forward? That's wonderful. Beside me here, I've got Jacob Prather. He is the North America Business Integrity Lead at Bayer. Jacob has spent just over a decade in the seed and agrochemical industries, and he started by first interning in field sales with Monsanto, then moved into managing sales, and is today serving as the North America Business Integrity Lead. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Crop Science from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. So let me throw the same question to you. What drew you into the ag industry?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So I'm a little bit different than Brittany. You're atypical high school student who went through, and I was never in FFA. And I was in a bedroom community just outside of Champaign, Illinois. And my grandparents had a farm, but they got rid of that when I was in high school. So I really didn't get to grow up in a farming household, but I grew up in a farming community. And I had Pioneer reps, Bayer reps, Monsanto reps that were friends of ours, and they helped mentor me and guide me into pursuing a degree in agriculture. And once I got to the University of Illinois, I found a family, I found an industry that I love, and then through internships and experiences, that's what led me to where I am today within my career.
Oh, I didn't realize that about you, and I think that's so neat that we've got one person who comes from an FFA background and one who totally doesn't. So we can really speak from both sides on that. So speaking of the FFA background, Brittany, I know that one of your big, huge passions is supporting the next generation. You've been really instrumental in developing FFA components at BASF. Can you just speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, Jacob and I were talking earlier, and you just mentioned family, right? You find your family within some of these organizations, like FFA, AFA, Manners, right? And a few years ago, when I kind of came through BASF, that's one of the first things I did was, who's my FFA people? Who's my family? And in doing so, we started actually an FFA alumni and supporters chapter. We have about 175 people now already. And within doing that, we're able to go out at the state, national level, help kids, talk to kids, mentor kids. We're helping start middle school chapters in some of those inner cities. We were talking about that too, right? Is how do you get that word? How do you spread that message? So for me, belonging to that FFA group, getting people excited about FFA that maybe grew up in Canada and didn't know anything about FFA, and we talk about it, and they go to their first competition. They get excited because they just judge students, and then they just want to do more. And they continue to work with and follow those students from middle school all the way through college, and then we recruit them, right? So an example of that is, I think about one of the last retiring officers, national officers from FFA. Her name is McKenna Clifton. I've been working with her through grade school, coached her when she was a state officer, coached her to become a national officer, and just a few weeks ago got a text from her that she just accepted an internship with us. So there's just lots of different ways that we can use that alumni and supporters chapter to bring in talent to our organization and help these students find their career in agriculture.
So I'm very intrigued by the people that we have here in the room. Can you put up your hand if you were involved in FFA, 4-H, Manners, one of those? Okay, so actually a lot of people were drawn into agriculture who weren't part of those organizations. So that is really neat. So, Brittany, let me just ask you one more question relating to FFA or manners and these kind of groups. Do you, obviously they do fantastic and important work. And though in this room, it wasn't all that many people who have been involved and yet people still came to agriculture. Do you feel like there is more room for, more opportunity perhaps for companies, corporations, industry to support those programs as a conduit to bringing in more people into agriculture?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the messages that we don't share enough is you don't have to be a part of a farm. You don't have to have done anything in agriculture. You can truly go into any job that you want and be a part of agriculture. So when I go and talk to kids and they're like, I want to be in engineering, I want to be in law. And I'm like, you can do that in agriculture. They have no idea. And I think that's what's cool to me about the ag industry. Any career, doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter how you grew up, you're accepted. You have a place, you have a home. And I don't think we do enough to spread that message. And why, as a student graduating from college with an engineering degree, with a law degree, why don't they know they can be a part of agriculture? That's on us. That's on us to fix that message. And it's on us for not sharing that message enough. So we do have a lot of work to do.
Okay, so what might be a concrete way of changing that?
Yeah, so I think when we go out, get out in your community, right? Get out to middle schools, elementary schools, get out to colleges and talk about these other jobs. So when you go out in the community, don't say, oh, I'm with such and such ag company, and talk about just your role. Talk about all the roles that are around you. Talk about the people you work with and what their roles are, what their backgrounds are, because they're only seeing you, right? They're only seeing you. So that for me, they see a farm kid in agriculture with an ag degree, with a master's too, because that's another problem in the ag industry. So I need to do a better job. We all need to do a better job of spreading what the rest of our company looks like, because it's not just you and I, right?
Yeah. No, to build on that, I think another thing that I remember when I was in high school and college was I had mentors. And when you look at them, you see them in the role they're in currently. You see leaders, you see other influencers within the agricultural space. And like when you look at me, you see Jacob Prather, the North America Business Integrity Lead with Bayer Crop Science. You see Brittany Lloyd with BASF. And talking about your past experiences like we just did allows students and other individuals that maybe have already had a career and are pursuing something different within a new career space. Agriculture could be their home. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned through partnerships and experiences with like Agriculture Future of America is bringing in that melting pot of students from across different spaces and sharing those experiences. And I think your point to not just representing your company, but also representing you as an individual. And I think that's where we see the most success within any organization is we're surrounded with phenomenal people, and engaging those individuals to reach out to those groups and be the spokespersons and go to those events and represent not just your company, but also agriculture as a whole. That's where we see the biggest success because they're passionate about it. When you get FFA alumni to go to an FFA convention, when you get Agricultural Future of America individuals to go back to AFA to help recruit the next generation of talent, that's where you see success.
So well said. So Jacob, you are probably an example of a harder demographic or cohort to pull into ag because you didn't grow up on a farm. You do have a connection to farming, but you don't have the direct on-farm experience. And you weren't directly involved in FFA. So you said that it was the connection and finding your home, really the people element to being drawn into agriculture. Do you have advice for how we individually and companies can bring in more of you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I look back at my experiences, and some of the best mentors that I had growing up were friends of family and our family groups within our neighborhood and within our church, as well as everywhere around me, right? So I think one thing that we need to think about as an industry is everyone's a mentor. There's no degree you have to get to be a mentor. There's no, certification. Anyone you interact with, you can mentor. You can bring into the agricultural space. And some of the best people I work with now have mentored me through my tenure with Monsanto and Bayer and helped guide me through those experiences, not just during college and recruitment, but also through my career as a professional as well. So I look at that as it's a role that everyone can do and everyone can have a part in that. And I think us as individuals, even when you're mentoring someone else, you're also looking to be mentored as well. And I think that's key too. I heard it best at a conference, and I forget the individual who stated it, but surround yourself with a board of directors. Surround yourself with individuals that you can lean on for advice, but then also lean on for those experiences to help guide you in whatever walk you are within your career, whether you're a college student or a young professional.
Well said. Jacob, can I just kind of building on that, given that you weren't a farm kid, I think of my own experiences of, conversations here even, but throughout my career in ag, how many times I have leaned back on just the knowledge that you pick up from being a farm kid. You have the lingo, you have the just framework of how agriculture works and the seasonality and the challenges and all of this kind of thing. How challenging was that for you to internalize and understand the kind of things that just provide the basic framework of agriculture? I think if you went into engineering, if you went into a different field, it's more academically learnable as opposed to just that basic framework. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that I found when I went to the University of Illinois, studying agronomy, crop science, the classwork was super beneficial for me. But I'm a hands-on learner, a visual learner. And so I actually had 4 industry internships. And so when I think about that, when I talk to young college students who are pursuing a career, those in-field experiences are invaluable for whether you're an existing farm kid, because the way you do things on your farm may not be the same that they do something in a different part of the world. My first job was in North Dakota. The way they farm, it's similar, but they do things a little differently than they do in Central Illinois. So those in-field experiences were invaluable to my success of really learning the farming, the agricultural space, not just within the classroom. So, I think maybe I was at a slight disadvantage to some others that were in FFA and grew up on a farm, but I think it also lent me to the opportunity to go out there and seek those opportunities, seek those challenges, seek that experience.
Yeah, no, Jacob, I couldn't agree more. And I think, you asked, what do we need to do, right? So we have internships, we have programs to help students learn how they do something in a different state, or learn how to be on the farm, or learn how to do marketing in agriculture. But sometimes students don't know about those opportunities. So we need to promote those opportunities and help them understand this is a wonderful learning experience, but also encourage them to get multiple experiences, to find out where they want to be and what they want to do. A lot of companies also have programs for right after you graduate, and you do a rotation and you go through several areas of the business. But if we're not talking about those in recruiting and getting students to be a part of those, they don't know about them. I think another piece is, and you hit on this a little bit too, is yes, textbook learning is great. But people in the ag industry are willing to teach you anything you need to know to do that job. And when I worked in our greenhouse, we hired a lot of students right outside of college. And I always said, if you had the soft skills I need, communication, flexibility, willing to work hard, I will teach you anything you need to know to work in this greenhouse. Doesn't matter what your background is. We even had people switch careers that went into ag education, taught a few years and realized maybe being in the classroom isn't what I want to do. That's okay. If you have those soft skills, we will teach you anything you need to know. You saw that as an intern, in being an intern in several different areas. But even if you don't have the opportunity to do an internship, we're still willing to teach you. But we have to spread that message, and we have to help people understand you're welcomed in the ag industry. The ag industry is a small family, and we will teach you. But if you don't know that, there seems to be a wall there, because maybe you weren't in the ag industry. You don't know that you can come in that door until we open it and tell you can. So and we've got to share that a bit more.
So you are both in leadership positions. So let's put on your leadership hats at this point. Given that we are becoming further and further away from the farm as a society, people on average, I think, are now 3 generations removed from the farm. Do you feel concern? Do you feel worry about being able to access enough skilled people and agriculture's ability to draw the right people? Or do you feel like agriculture is doing an adequate job of pulling in the right people?
So I think in 2-part, right? So you're correct. We are getting further removed from the farm. We're seeing more individuals who didn't grow up on a farm, didn't have that experience, but they are joining FFA. They are going into urban areas. They're getting that life skills experience. But the other thing that I've seen from an industry as a whole, as well as with my company, is how do we train? How do we develop those individuals with those experiences? And I think you were hitting on it a little bit, but as we look at talking to a new employee, maybe it's their first career out of college, maybe it's their second career, or even their third career, and they've done something else in a different industry. How do you bring them into the company, the culture, and give them those experiences through the roles that we have? Development and learning is not just, I do it for 4 years in college and then I'm done. As a leader and in the roles that I've had throughout my tenure, I look at it as I've learned something different in every role that I've had. And I also encourage everyone that I work with, find a role or a way to get as close to our customer as you possibly can, whether that's through field sales, through customer operations, because if you don't have that inherent experience within the within agriculture, didn't grow up on a farm, that's how you get that experience. But also, if you don't have the ability, if you don't have the opportunity to do that, surround yourself with team members, teammates, diversify that team in a sense of, I want someone from different backgrounds so we can build a team so that when you're talking about different new agendas or a new project, you can get those different perspectives. That's where I see the biggest success there. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'll give it.
Just before you say anything, Brittany, with the sound in the background, can you guys hear? Do you want us to turn up the volume a little bit? It's okay, or turn it up? It's fine? Okay, perfect. Brittany, it sounds very loud for us. Yeah.
No, I agree, right? So when you talked about surrounding yourself with a diverse group, backgrounds, where they're from, what their degree is, what job they are, it's all important for us to have that community around us, right? And it helps us understand, where do we want our next step to be? Because maybe we don't know either. We don't know what's to come. We may not know what opportunities are even out there for ourselves. So do I think we have good people coming into ag? Yes. Do I think we're seeing more people interested in ag? Absolutely. Why? It's because of some of these organizations and the work that they're doing. FFA, Manners, AFA, they're growing like crazy. We just had National FFA Convention, had over 70,000 people there. And so, yes, we're growing. Yes, we're getting bigger. We have a lot more to do to help students understand the opportunities. And I think, you talked about ag is getting bigger than just being on the farm, right? Help students understand that as well. So you talk about innovation, you talk about AI, you talk about all these other things that students are really interested in now, but they don't know that's connected to ag. They have no idea. So make that connection for them, right? But yeah, we have people coming in. We need to do a better job at recruiting, but you also talked about retention, right? And what do we do for those employees when they come in the door? How do we get them ready for their next step with us in agriculture? Another way to do that sometimes too is saying you don't have to have a PhD to come into agriculture. You don't have to have a master's. Sometimes you don't even need a degree at all. And if you're interested in a degree, we'll help you go back to school and pay for it. And a lot of students don't know that either. And they feel like they need to have a master's, a PhD, all these degrees to be able to get into our industry. And you don't. I mean, you shared, my experience. I just had a bachelor's degree and was leading a bunch of programs and went back to school because it was an opportunity given to me. I didn't know that was ever going to be an opportunity for me. I didn't know at the time that organizations like Bayer, like BASF, like these other companies I didn't know that they'll pay for you and give you the time and opportunity to do it. So when we talk about retention, surrounding yourself, setting up mentorship programs within your organization, going out and working with these organizations, telling them about opportunities, whether it be in education or whatever their next role is, we've got to do a better job.
You've done a great job of segueing into the retention conversation. So what I'm hearing from you, Brittany, is less that agriculture isn't investing adequately and more that agriculture needs to do and the seed industry needs to do a better job of communicating what's being done. Is that, Jacob, would you sort of agree with that?
I think we can always communicate more and in different areas and throughout that. So, yeah.
Okay. And that connection element. So the mentorship and the building relationship. We are all humans. It really does come down to relationship. Okay. How do we get past that concept that can you sort of touched on that, Brittany, Jacob, of that agriculture is, as you said, either sort of the farmer or the PhD?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question of how you get past it. I think it's through development, right? And I think it's, at first we talked about outreach to college students and that next generation recruitment, but I also look at it internally of how do we develop and engage every generation that we have at work, no matter where they're at. I've seen so many people that have done the same job for 15 or 20 years. And within the last 2 years, there's been a lot of change. We've seen a lot of different things happen. And so it allowed them to see things in a different light to say, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should do something different. But I also look at that as how do we look internally and develop? I've got teammates that I've worked with where we've been with the company for the same amount of time. This was my first career. I went through a trainee program. I went through sales. I transitioned into, digital farming solutions. The other individual had a 15, 20-year career in ag education before they came over. We were going through the same steps, but through a different lens. And seeing that we had a lot of similarities, but their experiences were different. So we were leaning on each other and having those conversations and seeing that. But I think it goes to show that as we think about, you're not just a PhD, you're not just a master's, you also don't have to start with the same company and go through it like I did. You can also come in and it be your second career. It doesn't even have to be a related career in the professional world. It can be something totally different. But I think what I see is the development, the mentoring, and finding the right people for your teams that can be successful for your mission, for what you're wanting to do within the company. And that's what creates a culture around a company that is phenomenal and great to work with. And you have different ideas and differing views. So
you touched on something really interesting there, Jacob. We've been talking about how to recruit, how to retain the next generation, but you mentioned everybody, regardless of where they are in their career path. So certainly when a new generation comes in, they bring new ideas, maybe more comfort with new technologies, innovation, this kind of thing. While we are supporting that generation, how do we support perhaps an older generation who might feel like running for the hills when all these new ideas come in? Can I throw that one to you, Jacob?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, because, as you think about the next generation, and, I work with our recruitment side of the business and the training and development. And, they want transparency. They want to see, that positive feedback, consistently from their managers. But also, as we think about that, focusing on challenging managers to develop themselves for the next generation, to bring in that young talent and that new talent. It's also ensuring that they don't lose sight of the people that are already here, or even themselves, because the way they went through the industry and the way they learned might be different than the way we're learning today. And what I look at, I've sat on different resource groups that are multi-generational, and we have this conversation constantly. And I think when I look at it, to answer your question, it's ensuring that we don't lose any voice, that we continually lean on the different experiences and perspectives of everyone that works around us, and ensure that not just the younger generation is being heard and being developed, but also we continue that development throughout every stage of your career. And it doesn't have to be somebody that's been with the company for 25, 30 years. It can be somebody that's been with the company for 10 years, but maybe this was their second career. How do you shape, how do you develop, how do you have those conversations? And that's important to the success of any corporation or any business, to ensure that every voice is heard, because that leads into retention and making sure that that institutional knowledge of the people that have been there stays and can help develop the next generation.
Yeah, no, so you brought up some good points. And I think part of that conversation and developing our people, right, starts with asking questions. As managers and leaders in our organization, mentors even, don't have to be a manager, asking those questions to the people that you're working with of, what are you interested in? What's next for you? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And it might be something as simple as, I just want to go out to the field because I've never been. And if you can create that opportunity for somebody, even if it's something that simple, it gets them excited. It gets them interested in new things. It helps them understand maybe where their career can go. But then they'll go out and share with other people, oh my gosh, I just went out to the field for the first time. I just sat in a tractor for the first time. And for me, it's something I wouldn't think about as being interesting. And yes, I want to do it. I sit on a tractor most days, right? But it's finding what people are interested in, meeting them where they are, and creating those opportunities that they're interested in to help them come back and stay in our industry, right? And it doesn't matter, like you said, is it somebody that's been with our organization for 20 years? Is it somebody who just started a new career? Is it somebody that's coming into the industry? Ask them what they're interested in. It's that simple. And I think we forget how simple it is sometimes. We get caught up especially in the industry and in large corporations, about these big plans that we have and all this training that we want to do for people, which is great stuff. But sometimes it's just a very simple question. Oh, you're interested in marketing? Oh, you're interested in talking to a customer? Let's attach you to somebody who can go out and talk to that customer. Go with them for a day. Enjoy yourself. Go learn something. Bring that back. Bring the knowledge back. Bring the excitement back. And bring the story back.
Really meeting individuals where individuals' needs are. I like it. I want to make sure that we wrap up on time. I've got one more question for you, but can I throw it out to the audience? Are there any audience questions before I ask one? Yeah, please go ahead. It was a little bit hard to hear you. If you could, yeah, this is a great idea. Can we pass you this?
So if I understood what we are talking about,
just speak right
today,
into it. Yeah.
Right. The big question is, how does the next generation view the ag business, right? And are we going to be able to recruit the next generation to the ag business? So for me, the view is like ag is a primary sector. That's how most people view agriculture. Correct? So it's not a hype sector.
It's not high.
It's not a hype sector.
Right, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Which is totally incorrect, right? Because agriculture is actually, in terms of ag biotech, applied science is probably one of the most important sectors. And so it seems to me the messaging can come from there, right? Agriculture is developing and applying new technologies, right? On par with academia or financing academia. So I think it's giving it that scent of technology, right? Of innovation, as you guys are saying. There's AI. There's other opportunities that come with such a big sector, but the core of it, right, is the mission, and the mission is to feed the world, and the mission is to be more sustainable, and there's that kind of stewardship of the earth, right? So I think for me, it's switching it into that direction, right? And then probably feeding. You guys talk about internships. That's a higher level, right? Go lower on the age, right? Go high school. Go, again, the saying, people are getting distant from farms, right? I had, a grandfather that had, his own little farm. Most of my friends didn't, right? A friend of mine couldn't even recognize a corn plant, right? But if you have that distance, you have to bring that in, right? And it could be with programs in, after school programs in schools or things like that, right? But I think ag is underselling itself, right? And the other thing it has, there's 4 major companies that, you guys work for 2 of them. You're not very well viewed in the public, right? There's a big stigma about a Bayer. Especially, right? Inherited from Monsanto, obviously, but you guys have a big stigma, and you need to clean that up a little bit, right? But again, I think it's emphasizing that it is a hype activity, that you can be on the cutting edge of technology, and that you can make a difference, right?
I like your comment a lot, that it's kind of taking it back to the heart of what agriculture is about. So you're placing it in the context of its importance, as opposed to it just being a job, right? And it is a job or it's a career opportunity that allows so many different avenues. But at its heart, it's about feeding the world. That's a really good point. So let me throw one last question at each of you. You've both done an excellent job of talking about concrete strategies that can really make a difference towards recruiting, retaining, supporting the very best people. And if you were to pose a challenge to the people here in the audience about something that they individually can take back to their roles, regardless of where their roles are in the value chain, and implement today, next week, next month, what would your challenge be? Brittany, can I throw it to you first?
Yeah, I think there are so many things that we can do, right? And we all bring different things to the table as individuals. So for me, I would say go back to organizations, go back home, and just think about what is one thing that you want to share out in your community about your role, about the industry, whatever it may be. What's one thing you enjoy? I personally enjoy going out and reaching out and talking to these middle schools. That's what I do. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy the recruiting piece. But find something that you can do that you enjoy and go out and talk to people about it. Whether it be in your organization, outside of your organization, whatever it is. But when you find your passion and what you enjoy, when you're sharing your passion with someone, they can't help but be excited with you, right? It's really that simple.
I like it. Jacob?
No, thank you. And thank you for all the questions this morning. I think the one takeaway that I think, based on the conversation we had this morning and the questions, I look at it as surround yourself with that board of directors, like I mentioned before, and find those mentors, not just for yourself, but also for them. Because the best relationships, the best development I've seen is when you mentor each other, when you work together to develop, whether it's the next generation of potential agricultural employees, or whether it's someone that's sitting next to you in the office or out in the field, finding those opportunities to ask them the right questions, ask them what they're interested in, as they ask you what you're interested in, because leaning on each other, developing each other can help the entire ag industry move forward through all of these changes that we're seeing through digital, through AI, through other things that we're seeing change the industry, just like we saw 20, 30 years ago. And it's continuing to change more so than ever. So that would be my challenge. Find that, find those individuals and work through that and develop each other and ask those questions. But thank you.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much to both of you. Brittany Lloyd, Jacob Prather, we really appreciate their insight and taking time after a very, very busy week this week. Thank you to both of you, and thank you to you for joining us this morning.